Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about what's worse between the physical aspect of healing from surgery or the mental aspect. For me, and just to give some context, if you're new here, I had brain surgery in November of 2023. I will 100% say it is much more difficult to recover mentally from this surgery than it is physically. Not saying that the physical recovery was easy. It was not easy at all. It was painful. It was uncomfortable. It was weird sensations that I was having. But now that I'm more than a year post-op and I can kind of look back on what this past year and some change has looked like, I would rather do, I was gonna say I'd rather do the physical recovery anytime, like multiple times over, than I would do the mental recovery. I don't know if that's really true because I've learned so much about myself, and there were some unexpected things that I learned with this mental recovery, but the mental recovery was much harder. If you want my opinion on what was easier, it was 100% the physical. Because with the physical, you pretty much know once you get to a certain point in your recovery, the pain is going to significantly go down. So you know that in 3 weeks and 4 weeks, the pain that you're feeling today is not how it's going to feel then, unless you have some kind of crazy complication. But what I'm saying is, if you have a kind of textbook surgery and no other challenges or incidents come up, you can pretty much it's not a guarantee, nothing is a guarantee, but you can expect that a month out from surgery your pain is going to be significantly less. With the mental aspect of it, you have no idea what to expect. It is 100% a roller coaster. And I didn't even really put much consideration into that going into the surgery. I was basically in survival mode where I need to have this surgery and all I need to do is wake up. If I wake up and I'm still alive, whatever I'm gonna face on the other side, I'll face and I'll be okay. But I had no idea how hard that was gonna be, and I'm not trying to complain about it, but it was so surprising because maybe 2 or 3 months post-op, once I was out of the woods in terms of the physical complications, getting an infection, stuff like that, I was on this high, this complete high of, oh my God, I survived this, I'm on the other side and I'm doing great, and I kind of rode that, is that a word, rode? I was riding that wave for a while, and I thought, like, I'm good. I healed physically. My doctors are saying that my recovery so far has been picture perfect. Just keep doing what I'm doing. And so I thought, this is it. And that was not it. When the emotions came out of it, and I talked a little bit about this on my channel before, but I want to go just a little bit deeper. When a lot of these emotions started coming out, and it's like it was a delayed reaction to the reality of what I had just gone through, and that's what happens when your brain is in survival mode. You don't have time to process the emotions of it. You're just like, I have to stay alive no matter what. And then once you're past that whatever period of time that is for you, that's when the mental weight of this whole situation comes out, and I was not ready for it. It was, I told you that I had watched a lot of videos on the surgery itself prior to having the surgery. I watched it on YouTube. And so I remember there were a couple times after surgery when I was like mostly recovered physically, where I went back and watched some of those videos, and that's when it hit me. It's crazy it's just crazy how all of this happens, but it hit me then, where it was like, damn, this is everything they did, and you kind of sit in the reality of what you went through, and it's very overwhelming. I talked about how I had to start going to therapy. I'm still in therapy. The direction of the therapy has changed a little bit, but initially, the anxiety and the stress was very overwhelming. And I also want to talk about something else I learned that was extremely unexpected. This is A surgery like this, where people cannot see your scars, they tend to think you're over exaggerating when you say how you're feeling. Like if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling anxious or stressed or depressed or, you know, anything like that, because people can't see what happened to you, they see pictures of you like when you were in the hospital, and they know you went through this, but in their mind it wasn't that serious because I can't see the results of this, you know. So I learned a lot about interpersonal relationships, and it was very difficult in the moment to have these kind of realizations that people think you're over exaggerating, and then they don't want to hear you talk about it. Because for me, talking about it was very therapeutic, whether I was talking to my therapist or to Instagram or to my friends and family. I needed that to help me in my recovery. And when there were times where that was met with, you know, it's not that serious, why are you still talking about it? It was very difficult, you know. And going through something like this can kind of be a catalyst or like a stepping stone for you to make difficult decisions when it comes to your interpersonal relationships and who you would like to be in your space and who you might have to kind of, you know, keep at arm's distance. Because when you have to face death, afterwards you're very selective with what you do, who you spend your time with. You know, everything, your perspective on everything just changes. And so you kind of develop this mindset of, if something isn't serving me, or if I know that this is a toxic environment, a toxic relationship, you know, whatever the case may be, you're a lot more willing to cut it off. Because in your mind, you're like, I know what true stress feels like. I know what true fear feels like. And I don't want to go to that place anymore, especially because of some BS. Like, if I'm going to have to go through a serious situation, let it be serious. Like, I don't want to go through something that is just not worth it. Petty stress or petty behavior, you know. So I became a lot more black and white. Like, this is an environment I want to be in. This is not an environment I want to be in. And I've pretty much held true to that, and it has been very beneficial. So tying this all in, the mental aspect is a lot more difficult, and I still go through it to this day. There are times where I think about what happened and I still tear up, and, you know, I still go through it. Like, I kind of go back to that time. It was a year ago, but I still go back to that, and I, you know, relive the emotions that I was feeling back then, because the emotions never fully go away. You learn how to manage them, but and they're not always like present right in your face. Like, you might go a couple of months without feeling, you know, stressed or anxious or anything like that, and then out of nowhere it'll just hit you, and you'll kind of regress a little bit. But for me, when I've had those moments of regression, I just kind of sit there and I allow myself to feel how I feel, because I know I'm not exaggerating with this process or with how I feel. I know how serious it was. The other thing is, I was able to see the incisions, or not the incisions and the surgery site in my face. Like, they put a camera in my nose and I was able to see what it looked like. So for me, it is extremely real, not just because I physically went through it, but I've seen what they did. So, you know, I give myself grace when I'm in those moments of regression and feeling sad and feeling scared and anxious and all like that, because it was a serious situation. And I don't ever want to, there's a sidebar, there's a bird that lives like on my window shelf, or ledge. And every day he comes up and like pops his head in, and it's the cutest thing. Anyway, okay, what was I saying? Right, so I give myself grace because I know what I went through was serious, but I try not to allow myself to stay in that place for too long, because then that's when it's very easy to start going down a slippery slope, and then depression comes and more anxiety and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't want to allow myself to get there, But if in the moment I'm feeling it, I just kind of, feel the feelings and then I let them go. So yes, in terms of the recovery, mental is definitely harder, but I don't regret it. I don't regret it for a second. Now, if you have any questions, anything that I didn't cover in this about, aspects of the recovery, please leave them below. I'd be happy to answer them. And if it's a really in-depth question, I'd be happy to make another video about it. So thank you all for watching.